top stories. 8 nationals recognized for contributions to nation building. Heavy rainfall associated from Grace impacts northeastern parishes of Jamaica, and pushback against new university vaccine mandates. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Thursday, the 19th of August 2021. I'm Jason Davis. Nationally, 8 nationals of St. Kitts and Nevis were honored for their years of contribution to nation building in their respective fields. They were honored at an investiture ceremony on Thursday held by Governor General Sir S.W. Tapley Seaton, GCMG CVO QCJP LLD, at Government House this morning. During the ceremony, after a brief summary of their contributions was read by different presenters, the honorees were presented with their awards. Mrs. Josephine Huggins received the Companion of the Most Distinguished Order of St. Michael and St. George CMG for her contribution to public service. The Office of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, or OBE, was presented to Her Honor Hailita Librad, MH, for her contribution to public service, and Mr. Athil Rollins for his contribution to the public service and land surveying. The Member of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, or MBE, was presented to Vinetta Laws for her contribution to community service and business entrepreneurship, Colin Tyrrell for his contribution to community service, Dr. Leroy Richardson for his contribution to medicine, and Dr. N. Analdo Bailey for his contribution to financial services. Commissioner of Police Hilroy Brandy received the Queen's Police Medal, or QPM, for his contribution to policing and leadership. The 8 recipients were all named on the New Year's Honours List for 2020 and 2021. In other news, health authorities in St. Kitts and Nevis are strongly encouraging citizens and residents to remain vigilant against the COVID-19 virus. This comes as there is a marked increase in the number of reported daily cases, which may suggest a third wave of COVID-19 infections. As of Wednesday, the statistics stood at 34 cases confirmed within the previous 24 hours, a record 19 of which were reported in Nevis, 149 active cases, 590 recovered cases, for a total of 742 since March of last year, with 3 persons having died from the disease. On Tuesday, it was stated by Medical Chief of Staff at the Joseph N. France General Hospital, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, that 6 persons were hospitalized for the disease. Meanwhile, on Nevis, one particular company has been shut down by health authorities, according to Premier the Honorable Mark Brantley during his On the Mark radio show on Wednesday.
We have had news that in just the past 2 days, Nevis has had another 3 positive cases. When I spoke this evening to Dr. Nisbet, I asked, of course, for the update, and she had not yet had the results, but she told me to brace myself and that we ought to brace ourselves because they had been forced to test every single member of a company here, because the individuals that had been tested and had tested positive were all employees of a particular company. And so they've tested everyone now, and it appears, although we do not yet know the numbers, that there will be additional cases.
He added that the authorities have now shut down the entire company. During Tuesday night's Leadership Matters, Dr. Wilkinson noted the rise of the new cases a few days prior. He said, quote, "We had 13 new cases on Saturday, 26 on Monday, and now 27 today, after recording daily low single digits positives and sometimes 0 since the lockdown," end quote. The majority of the recent cases were detected from social gatherings and educational institutions of the early childhood sector. The authorities are encouraging everyone who can receive a jab of COVID-19 vaccine to do so to boost the population immunity threshold. The Fisheries Department has recorded a significant increase in fish exports in the second quarter of 2021 when compared to the same period of 2020. Port State Control Officer in the Department of Fisheries, Maritza Quealy, said since the ports have opened, there has been an uptick in exports and an increase in the number of registered fishers as well.
for the second quarter of this year, we have seen incremental increases for registered fishers, that's new registered fishers, and we have been seeing drastic increase in export because now that the ports are opening up, so more persons are now exporting greater than they did last year. So that's good, as fishers are able to market their products not just locally but also internationally or regionally.
Ms. Quealy also noted that the department will be stepping up its compliance measures and will soon be issuing ID cards for fisherfolk.
Fishers would be able to, under this new regulation, have ID cards. That's license card where the fisher would be readily identified, and so they won't have to come to the department for a letter. They will have their cards available, and so we're hoping to roll out this card initiative in the next few months.
Port State Control Officer in the Department of Fisheries, Maritza Quealy. We now move to news on the regional scene. In Jamaica, frequent outbreaks of heavy rainfall and winds associated with Tropical Storm Grace left many Jamaicans in fear as she ravaged the country. More in the CVM Live News report.
Due to the extremely heavy rainfall and brisk winds, we were unable to get out of the vehicle. But from what we observed, several roads across the corporate area were flooded and rendered impassable. Sections of downtown Kingston motorists braving the waters. Containers toppled at Kingston wharves. We spoke to members of the homeless community who sought refuge on the steps of the Supreme Court.
That gets more harsh day by day. Breeze that blow the wind, so we expect something very intensive.
The rain now, and the father doing, Yeah, so we just keep back, see what will go on.
On Spanish Town Road, a truck carrying over 20 vendors got stuck and had to be pulled out. In Seymour Park, a wall collapsed on an apartment. Trees uprooted, blocking the Malines Road. Communications manager at the National Works Agency, Stephen Shaw, says some 24 roads were impacted.
Are looking at impact in the parishes of St. Catherine, St. Andrew, St. Thomas, Portland, St. Mary, and St. James in the main. Of course, the weather system continues to impact the country, so we believe that the reports are going to be far greater.
Robeanne Williams for CVM Live.
In Antigua and Barbuda, a government senator who was once a fierce critic of the late Sir Lester Bird has apologized for his past comments. Before becoming a parliamentarian himself, Senator Colin Brown had opposed a knighthood for Sir Lester, but recanted those comments in Parliament on Tuesday. More from ABS's Jessica Russell.
Lester Bird, knighted in this country, me to go past it and make rough shot. So me say so, then I have to lock me up. Me look when Lester Bird walk up, me to kick down the something, then I have to lock me up.
Government Senator Colin Brown says he regrets making that comment on a proposal to knight Sir Lester Bird. The former Prime Minister was named a national hero in 2014. On Tuesday, the senator's apology was recorded in Hansard during a special parliamentary sitting.
A young man looked at me, apparently he knows me, and he put on a recording that where I said I was going to kick down the podium. So I want to use this house as the sole repository of official public record to apologize again. And this is not the first time I'm doing this. I've said this oftentimes.
He says his comments were politically juvenile and never genuine.
When I spoke about Sir Lester being knighted, it was not coming from the heart, and I've said this before. It wasn't from the heart, but I was egged on. And I'm closing the chapter today, specifically to clear the air so that there will be no nuances, no innuendos, or anybody interfering with me.
The senator says he made amends with the former leader, who reportedly held no malice against him, so much so that he says this.
Sir Lester has been an uncle to me. And this is what he calls me. He called me nephew.
Both the upper and lower house assembled yesterday to pay tribute to Sylvester Bird, who died last week at 83. His state funeral takes place next week, Thursday. Jessica Russell, ABS News.
Internationally, an expanding group of United States colleges and universities says students must receive a COVID-19 vaccine before arriving on campus in the fall semester. More than 20 million U.S. students are headed off to college, and this year there's a new item on the curriculum, COVID-19 vaccine mandates. Al Jazeera's Rob Reynolds reports.
More than 20 million U.S. students are headed off to college. This year, there's a new item on the curriculum, COVID-19 vaccine mandates. More than 700 colleges and universities now say students must be vaccinated or face repeated COVID testing, enforced social distancing, or even be barred from campus. Colleges are desperate to prevent a replay of last year's damaging campus shutdowns.
Another outbreak would be extremely disruptive. We're risking another evacuation from college campuses in the fall, and it will have an even greater impact on those who are already the most vulnerable in our society.
In the politically hypercharged debate over vaccines in the U.S., there are, naturally, those who refuse to comply. Riley O'Neill, a student at Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles, is one of them.
It goes back to the idea that I should be able to choose whether I get the vaccine or not. And if I'm going to be coerced into doing that, that doesn't feel like a free choice to me. It very much feels like oppression.
He has sued the university over its vaccine policy. If he refuses the shots, he could attend Loyola Marymount, but would have to undergo repeated testing and observe social distancing with other students. O'Neill's lawyer was quick to frame the issue in political terms.
There's going to be this continued divisive effort by the left, by the progressive side of this nation, to try to create this division between the vaccinated and the unvaccinated.
So far, legal efforts to overturn college vaccine mandates have fallen flat. A federal appeals court recently ruled against students suing the University of Indiana over its vaccine mandate. One of the judges wrote, "People who do not wish to be vaccinated can go elsewhere," and the Supreme Court has upheld that ruling. O'Neill seems unconcerned that unvaccinated young people will get infected and spread the virus to more vulnerable people.
Quite frankly, my age group isn't nearly as affected by COVID-19 as older generations are.
That's a problem, says higher education authorities.
Part of our educational responsibility is to talk to people not only about their rights, but also their responsibilities. And liberal education, America's historic mission of educating for democracy, requires that we impart that message now more than ever.
Surveys show the overwhelming majority of college students approve of campus vaccine mandates. Rob Reynolds, Al Jazeera, Los Angeles.
And now for the weather. Present weather shows partly cloudy skies. Winds are a moderate breeze of 16 miles per hour from the east-northeast. The temperature is 27 degrees Celsius or 81 degrees Fahrenheit. Seas are moderate with waves of 6 to 7 feet. Small craft operators should exercise caution, mainly along the eastern side of the island. Today will be partly cloudy to cloudy with a 60% or moderate chance of showers. Tonight will be partly cloudy to cloudy with a 50% or moderate chance of showers. Sunset today will be at 6:34 p.m., sunrise tomorrow at 5:55 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jason Davis.